Right, at 7 o'clock. So we're going to start. Hello, everybody. My name is Vicki Iozia. I'm proud to be the first president of the League of Women Voters of Citrus County. This is the last of our Zooms with the county commissioner. We want to allow people who work during the day to attend these meetings. And we want our guests to have the opportunity to speak about what they do and to answer questions. While Mr. Kinnard is speaking, please mute yourself so that we don't get any interruptions from what he's saying. This is being recorded. It will be put on YouTube, and interested people who are on my list for the newsletter, will get the link so that they can watch it. More people coming in. Okay. All right. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Jeff Kinnard. He's the County Commissioner for District 1, which includes Crystal River and Denellen. He's lived in Citrus County. Now, I was reading up on you. Some of the things said 30 years, some of the things said 20 years.
30 years.
30 years. Where does it go? He was
That's
first
a great
elected
question.
in 2016. He has a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry from Florida State University and a doctorate in chiropractic from Palmer College. He serves as the president of the Citrus County Coastal Conservation Association, president of the East Citrus Youth Football League, member of the Well Florida Council, doctor and business owner, and resident of Citrus County for 30 years. He serves on the Hernando Citrus Metropolitan Planning Organization, Keep Citrus Beautiful, the Withlacoochee Regional Water Supply Authority, the Affordable Housing Advisory Council, the Value Adjustment Board. I am so happy that you could take time from all those activities to be with us today. It says on the website, Jeff's philosophy is that of managed growth while protecting and promoting the natural resources of such a special place. His goal is to restore common sense, conservative values, and manage growth practices in Citrus County. And now I will be quiet and allow our guest, Jeff Kinnard, to speak.
Very good. Well, thank you. You left off the two most important roles, and that's the truth, as husband and father. My wife Renee, and I started dating in high school in 1985, and we got married in 93. We moved to Citrus County in 95, and we had two kids that were born right here at Citrus Memorial, and then raised them through the public school system. Our daughter has gone off to work in Jacksonville after earning her master's degree from Valdosta State University, and our son graduated from Florida State University and is now in chiropractic college. So at the house, it's Renee and I and the dog these days. It got pretty quiet around here, other than a busy county schedule for sure. So that was just a brief intro on where Jeff Kinnard is at right now. But I'll tell you what led me into politics briefly. When I was busy in my chiropractic office in Inverness, and I started following what was going on with the county commission. And at the time, there was a lot of talk, a lot of conversation by the TDC of building a very large park, play fields, things like that on the Betts Farm property. And at the time, or years prior to that, we were doing a lot of traveling with our son for baseball around the state and a little bit up into Georgia as well. And so we spent a lot of weekends at these big complexes. And what we found after doing a little bit of research into these things is these large complexes are busy when the teams are there, but then the rest of the weeks or months, they're empty. You know, they may have a handful of people there, but they cost the communities, once they're built, they cost the communities a tremendous amount of money to maintain them. So I started going to the TDC meetings, had some conversations with county commissioners, and I said, look, I love sports. I love youth sports. why not, rather than putting these millions of dollars into a brand new facility, why don't we look at investing in our existing facilities, upgrade those? We're already maintaining them. And when I was meeting with the county commissioners individually, of course, they would sit there and nod their head. Yeah, it's a great idea. We like it. It's we'll talk to the TDC about this. And I went and gave my spiel to the TDC, and their response to me was, "Well, that's great, thank you, but you're misinformed." And that was the end of it. I thought, wait a minute. So my wife and I talked about it a little bit, and I don't remember her exact words, but to cut to the point, it was either be quiet about this or get involved and do something. So that was back in 2014, and in 2015, I decided to run for office, and here we are, 9 years later. Thankfully, apparently, the majority of the folks going to the polls anyway think that while we may not necessarily agree on everything, they feel like I've represented them well, and I feel like we've gone through an interesting period in Citrus County's history. And I feel like I try and give everybody a seat at the table. I listen to what everybody has to say, and process that. And ultimately, I've got to make a decision. And like I said, even though we certainly are not going to agree on every decision, that people at least feel like, I think they feel like they have been heard once we have a chance to sit down and talk, and more so listen to what they're interested in, or what their position on it is. So right now, I'll fast forward a little bit to my thought for this talk was to outline or talk about 5 major initiatives that are on our plates right now with the county commission, and then I'll be happy to answer any questions about any of those 5, or I can go through those 5, and then at the end, if you've got questions about really anything that the county commission is currently dealing with, or that we have dealt with in the past, or maybe it's something that you feel like we need to be involved with, and we're not involved. Because I am very involved in the boards that I sit on. I've sat on, as Vicki mentioned, I've sat on the Hernando Citrus MPO board since I was elected in 2016. That's our regional transportation planning board. We do that with 2 counties together. So I've been there for 9 years. I sit on the Withlacoochee Regional Water Supply Authority Board. And while I disagree with some of their positions that I have tried to change, I just haven't had the votes to do it yet. I've chaired that committee. I know 2 years now. It may have been 3 years now that I served as the chair of that board. So I know quite a bit. Not certainly a long way from what the hydrogeologists at SwiftMud know, but I know a lot about what the planning that goes into our water supply, where our water comes from, and the recharge system and so forth like that. I've been there for all those planning meetings. And I also sit on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee. I haven't sat there on that committee quite as long, but that's another good one. So if there's any of that kind of stuff that you want to talk about, I'll be glad to share my position or what those committees are dealing with. So let's get right to it. First and foremost, the talk of the town right now is this 1 cent sales tax initiative. Whether or not the board should put it on the ballot for the electorate to decide if this is what we want to do, and if it is, how much is it going to be? Would it be a half cent? Would it be a full cent? How long should it be? How long of a time period are they voting for? Typically, these things sunset in 4 or 5 years, so voters get a chance to go back to the poll and determine whether or not commissioners have put that money where they promised that they would put it. And I think most of the time they vote in support of reestablishing it, because they see what that kind of money can do for their communities. Some counties use it for parks, or others infrastructure. In our case, the biggest issue that's been talked about is our road resurfacing program. Right now, over the past 3 years, including this past 2 years and this upcoming year, we'll have put roughly $45 million into our road resurfacing, residential road resurfacing. That is probably more than Citrus County has put into residential road resurfacing in all of its years previous to that, because the numbers prior to that were zero in a number of years, or $2 million, $3 million, that sort of thing. We started pushing that number up several years ago and got up to 6 or 7 million. A couple of years ago, the board voted to put 16 million into it. Last year we did the same thing. This upcoming year we're going to do the same thing again. So those are some really big numbers that we're putting into it to try and take care of our road system. Unfortunately, staff is telling us that just to keep up, just to maintain the roads that we've got, not adding any additional lane miles and so forth, that we need about $40 million a year. So even if this 1 cent sales tax or half-cent sales tax would be successful, we still have work to do. And how are we going to maintain these roads? I don't want to say in perpetuity, but how are we going to maintain these roads on an ongoing basis? You can't simply do it with property taxes, and it's really not reasonable to expect that you're going to do it with a sales tax. This would be more of a stopgap measure for a period of time that the voters would approve it for. And so there's a lot of talk about that. I was very supportive of having that money from the additional sales tax, the local option sales tax. I was supportive of splitting that into several different pots. One might be for land conservation, another might be for actually expanding capacity on our roads, and then another portion, not necessarily all equal portions, but another portion of it going towards road resurfacing. And I will tell you, since I made those comments publicly at the board meeting, the only feedback, 100% of the feedback that I have gotten is put it all towards road resurfacing. I have not, and I'm going to talk about the Pirates Cove property purchase here in just a second. I want to conserve some of the properties that we can. Critical pieces, not just any piece of land, but key pieces that we've got the opportunity to set aside and hold in the public trust in perpetuity. I would favor that. And so I was willing to champion that. But honestly, I have not gotten a single phone call, a single email, nothing about that. In fact, the one phone call that I've gotten that even addressed it, this gentleman said, look, it looks like we're moving towards success with the Pirates Cove property. When there are key pieces or critical pieces of real estate that come up for sale or have the ability to purchase a conservation easement on those, the troops, we will help rally the troops to raise money. If it's getting money from the feds or from the state or local philanthropists and so forth, we will help raise the money. This money, if this passes, if it's successful, this money needs to go to road resurfacing and help us get out of the hole that we're in with our roads. And so, Commissioner Barrick Commissioner Barrick and Commissioner Bays, I believe, were spot on that that needs to be the focus of this revenue. And so we'll see. There's certainly going to be some conversation about it at the next county commission meeting, and we'll see where that goes. So the Pirates Cove property. This is an initiative that I started working on many years ago when I was out. I believe it was before I was even elected to office. It was during the campaign, just out seeing what my district looked like. My wife and I, we raised our family over in Inverness. And while we spent a lot of time over here in Crystal River, I certainly didn't know all the different areas of it. And so I spent a lot of time driving around, stopping to meet some of the business owners, residents, things like that. I can't tell you the amount of time I spent out on Citrus Avenue. But when I ended up out in Ozello and spoke with John out at the Island Outpost out there were folks there saying, Pirates Cove property, we can't let it develop. We've got to stop the development. And at that point, I don't recall if there was an application pending or they had just come off of an application, but the folks out there did not want that piece of property developed. And my comment at the time was, well, it abuts a county ramp, a county park. Why doesn't the county just buy it? And I had no idea the challenges that we were going to face with the seller. The sellers of the property could not stand the county because of dealings that Dad had had with the county previously. So we went back and forth over it for a while, and even right up until the last week or two, I was really starting to lose faith that we were going to be able to put this deal together. And lo and behold, the lady that was representing the two owning the property sent the county the contract that we had sent to them, agreeing to the terms that the county had laid out. It was ultimately the purchase price is 1.176. Most of the time that we've been negotiators, over the past year, she's been stuck at 1.8. She wanted 1.8 million for it. She was determined she was going to get 1.8 for it, and we just weren't coming off of our number. And so of that 1.176, the county has committed to bringing 900,000 to the table. That money, it will come from the tourist development tax. So our tourists are paying for a portion of the property. It's going to come from the park impact fees, which have to be used for expanding the capacity of our parks. They can't be used for road resurfacing or salaries or any of that type of stuff. That impact fees have to be used for expanding capacity for that particular category that they're collected for. And then the third part of it is coming from what's called the Duke Special Projects Fund. Now, staff is renaming it something else, but that's what it is. This is money that comes from the remaining two coal plants out at the Duke facility, the tax revenue that comes from those two plants. And the reason that we set up this line item, or this fund, if you will, to put that money into and call it a special projects fund, rather than just dropping it right into the general revenue fund, is sooner or later, those two coal plants are going to come offline. Duke is getting out of the coal business. They're getting into the clean energy business, natural gas plants, and ultimately we'll see what happens. But certainly nuclear is making a comeback in certain areas. Now Duke has no plans that they've revealed to anybody to do that, but they're certainly getting away from the coal plants. And so sooner or later, those two coal plants, last remaining coal plants out there, are going to go down. And we didn't want a recurring expense of the county to be dependent on the tax revenue from those last two plants. And so that money gets set aside into this special projects fund that for one-time purchases, one-time expenses, because you can't depend on it. Those plants may be gone next year. And so those are the three pots of money that we'll be looking to get to that 900. The remaining, 250,000, whatever the balance is, plus we agreed to pay her closing costs. That money is coming from the private sector. We've got philanthropists in our community, both private and one particular company are going to participate in making up that difference, so that the county can purchase this and expand our park out there by roughly 4 acres. The idea is a passive park. We're not going to do anything exciting with it. Keep it mowed, keep it cleaned up, some picnic tables, maybe some grills out there, but an area where people can go and just see what Old Florida, what Ozello, what that looks like. So I believe there's 7 or 8 lots out there where she could have sold them off individually and put 7 or 8 homes out there on that 4-acre piece of property, which would have really been a shame. If you've not been out there, it is just a beautiful spot to go out and see some crystal clear water. So as we talk about saving a portion of Citrus County, a special portion of Citrus County, we need to talk about the growth in Citrus County. I know that's of concern if not to everybody, the 99% of people out there that are sitting in traffic or driving our roads or waiting in line at the restaurant, whatever it might be. But I'll give you an interesting statistic that was shared with me. It's been shared with me a couple times over the last few months, but I just got it again this week. That back in 2020, and I can send this data to you. I don't have it right in front of me, but back in 2020, the population forecast for Citrus County in 2025 was 177,000 people. So that was 25 years ago. They forecast us to be at 177,000 people. Today, we're at about 175,000 people. That's 1.1% difference. So they have been, the experts in these fields have been projecting this growth 25 years ago. It's just, we weren't really paying attention to it as residents of the community, or maybe didn't believe that it was going to do that. But they hit it pretty close to the mark back in 2020 when they said that 2025 you're going to be at about 177,000 people. So that was interesting. What has been the surprise or the startling point of the growth to most people is that rather than just a steady increase in population, 2006, 2008, when the economy tanked, the global economy tanked, and then with COVID in the early part of it, when everything just kind of came to a screeching halt, our growth fell like that. Towards the end of COVID, then it took off. And so ultimately, a graph showing a steady growth going up like that, we were coming from down here. Now we've met up where they projected 25 years ago. So I thought that was pretty interesting information that's not out there or is not understood. There's county commissions have been talking about this and preparing for it for a long time. 486 was built the way that it was to handle a lot of traffic out there. 491, we got behind the eight ball there a little bit. And the reason for that was that previous boards were trying to not just do a road widening project, but they got into this medical corridor project. And so they started adding a lot more to it rather than just sticking with a road widening project. That slowed things down. Ultimately, we broke it down into two phases. Thankfully, it looks like the second phase is just about complete to 486. And now you see the board focusing on looking for dollars to continue the widening north as we head north to 200. So those are the things that that we're working on. A lot of the stuff that is not talked about, and it's just not I guess interesting stuff to put in the paper, but much of the infrastructure that we're putting in the ground, water pipes, sewer pipes, lift stations, things like that. Most of these things are getting oversized when they're getting put in the ground to handle the growth that's coming, because we know it's coming. You may not, a lift station looks like a lift station to most of us. You may not realize that it's built to handle the capacity that's coming over the next 20 years. When the Suncoast Parkway announced that they were coming up here, Ken Cheek, the director of utilities, came to the board and asked for funds to dry pipe water and sewer along the course of that, because you're going to have all this equipment out there anyway. And it's a lot cheaper to put it in while they've got this dug up. If you'll give me, we're not connecting it yet, but if you'll give me the money to dry pipe this, we can save millions of dollars down the road. And so that's exactly what we did. We haven't stayed ahead of the growth in all aspects of the infrastructure, but we're certainly working at it within our means, trying to do the best we can with the finances that we have. Rewriting the comp plan. I was just asked about this. I was just asked about this at a meeting I was at. And Gene, I see your question here. I'll get to it in just a second. The comp plan was written decades ago. And we have amended it many times over the years, even since I've been on the board. The problem we've got now is that it is a book of patchwork. And so you don't have a chapter that just flows beginning to end. You've got a chapter that works, and then you get referred to a different part of the comp plan to come back to it, because it's been amended over and over and over again over the years. After I had initially proposed a building moratorium until we could get our comp plan and LDC in place, then I found out shortly thereafter that the state and contractors, so forth, would quickly pull our behinds to court if we tried to do that. Pardon me. I said, all right, let's find a different way to accomplish this to get a handle on the growth that's happening and make sure that ultimately we end up with the community that we want 10 years from now, 30 years from now. And so that's why I proposed this refresh, if you will, of our comp plan. And what that looks like is taking the bones of what's there and updating that, bringing our comp plan to the 21st century. You know, the days of, you know, people buying the 3-bedroom, two bath home on an acre and a half of land or 2 acres of land, and that's what everybody wanted. Certainly there's some people that want that, but there's an awful lot of folks that want much less than that or something much different than that. And you know, they want a lot less yard. You know, they want a lot smaller home. Maybe like in our case, you know, the kids are gone and don't want to take care of, don't want to maintain those bigger homes, or more importantly, can't afford those bigger homes. You know, when a home is $400,000 or $500,000, you've got, you know, working class folks that just can't get into the housing market. And so I have said publicly, I've taken some hits for it, I guess, if you will. But the two ways that you solve that situation, we talked about it tonight at the Affordable Housing Committee. You solve it with density and height. Now, those are bad words to say in public if you're an elected official, because there's an awful lot of folks that don't want to hear about that. But ultimately, those are the ways that you get to housing prices that, you know, your young couples can afford, your you know, your teachers can afford, your first responders can afford, things like that. And then if they so choose, then they can go out and buy that estate home, if you will. But we've got to get our comp plan up to the 21st century. There's changes to be made there, and there's some communities that have some absolutely wonderful comp plans. And this group that I suggested, Inspire, has been involved with. I would suggest, if not an awful lot of them, I would suggest probably the majority of them in the state of Florida. They have. No, it's not a majority. We got 67 counties. I would bet they've been involved in probably just shy of 20 of them would be my guess. Very, very professional company. They've been at this. They've been at this a long time, and we're getting a group of professionals to refresh our comp plan. And timeline for that is they've told us once they get started, it's going to take them about 18 months. Last thing that I'll cover, and then we can open it up to talk about whatever y'all would like to talk about, is the animal shelter. You know, we've talked about this. The community has opened their wallets and has donated money to it. I have said publicly we are absolutely going to build a new animal shelter. What I don't want to build is a Taj Mahal that's a $20 million animal shelter. The last number that I had heard was 16 million was probably about where this thing was going to land. And I will tell you, our previous county administrator, Randy Oliver, had told me when we first started down this road, he said, you guys are going to end up around 12 to $15 million. And I said, Randy, there's no way that we end up that high. You know, I believe we can get an animal shelter built for $8-9 million in that ballpark. And he said, well, you'll see. And Randy had been involved with many public building projects like that in different counties around the state of Florida. Tremendous experience. And so I probably, as a young commissioner, I probably should just shut up and listen to him and start figuring out where we're going to come up with $12 to $15 million to build an animal shelter. But anyway, that's where we're at. It's either out for bid or will be going out to bid very, very quickly. And then it'll come back to the board and say, here's what contractors out there are saying. Now, I will tell you that I had a conversation with Mr. Howard on Tuesday and told him yesterday morning before our special meeting. I told Mr. Howard that what the Builders Association is telling me is that the specifications for materials in the shelter are very high. That they're requiring the upper crust of materials, and that's not what we need. We need a shelter that is suitable for handling all of the pets that come in there, the animals that come in there. It needs to be durable. It needs to stand up for decades. It needs to be easy to clean because that's a constant problem. And they need to be able to sanitize it so that we don't get the spread of disease and so forth in there when those things do hit, because it's going to happen. And so, you know, one of the members in the Builders Association was involved. It was a roofing company, and they said there are many shingles. If you ask me to come out and shingle your roof, I can show you 5 or 6 different brands. 2 or 3 are in the top group, and another couple are in a group that's a little bit lesser quality and probably aren't going to hold up as long. But tell us the quality that you're looking for. We want brand X or similar quality or that type of thing that gives your contractors some latitude, some flexibility to find the best pricing and be able to deliver the product at a lower price point, but still get an excellent quality shelter. And so he and I had some conversation about that. He was going to go back and look at the invitation to bid and find out how that could be addressed in advance of of the bids of the contractors sending in their sealed bids. Another way, and I'll finish my talk on this, is I told him that DOT has a policy for its contractors that if they see a less expensive way of doing something and still ending up with the end product that DOT is looking for, then the contractor gets a portion of the savings. And we had an example of that right here in the county. The bike trail that cuts across just before the Dunellen Bridge, the tunnel that goes underneath, that was supposed to be an overpass there. That was going to be a bike path that went back and forth, and ultimately bicyclists would pass over top of the road and end up down on the other side of the road. The contractor that they had hired to do it came back to them with a significant savings, and that's a number of years ago now. So I don't want to be too specific about it, but it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $1 million, $800,000, somewhere in that neighborhood. The contractor said, we can put a tunnel here that will accomplish everything you need to accomplish and save DOT some money. So DOT came to us and they said, we'll build the overpass if you want it, but if you're willing to take the tunnel, the contractor has told us they can save this amount of money. And so ultimately, that's exactly how we ended up with a tunnel under the road there. Let me see if I can. Okay, let's see here. Okay, if you have a question, you can put it in chat. Pirates Cove, will there be signs and directions on how to get to it? I have no clue where it is and how to find it. Yes, absolutely. That's a great comment. We've been out there many times. In fact, at one point, we considered building a house out there. So I don't think about people not being able to get out to it. But yes, that I believe that ultimately will be a destination park that people not only in the community will want to come to, but people outside the community will want to come to. It is the waters that flow by there are just absolutely gin clear water, just crystal clear. And so yes, there will be signs there. We will make sure of that.
And there's the one
And
road that goes out there, Ozella Trail. Even I
yes,
couldn't get lost.
yeah. So Zella Trail to Sand Dollar, and then you make a quick left off of Sand Dollar to the county's boat ramp, and it's all a piece of property. Then off to your right, it's roughly 4 acres. But we will make sure that people that are wanting to go out there can make it out there. Let's see, internet access for all. I just I don't see I don't see that happening. I don't see the county ponying up for it. Um, and the internet providers that we've got, those are those are businesses. Those are for-profit businesses. So I don't see that happening. Fiber optics. We've got a lot of fiber in the county, but I'll tell you something interesting about that is, for the most part, sorry about that. For the most part, we have no idea where it's at because they don't have to tell us. And that's for their own security reasons, that they don't want their competitors to know what they're up to, where they're putting their wire in, and they don't want people that would have ill will to be able to go out and target cutting their fiber. The state legislature has preempted the county on virtually anything and everything to do with telecommunications, and so we get a little bit of insight to it, but not a whole lot.
Hmm.
Let's see. All right. Let's see. What is the county's position on Citrus Hope? Honestly, I think if it's not a unanimous vote to support them when they're ready to come up here, I think it'll be very close. I'm certainly going to support it, and I'll tell you, I don't know if anyone saw the article that I put in the paper after we got back, but I would say my position changed, not 180 degrees, but I was in full support of Catholic Charities building a Citrus Hope up here. And I believe when they're ready to do it, I think that I'm certain they will have the support to do it. Let's see.
Okay.
Who is moving to Citrus? Interesting question. I'm glad you asked. As much of a retiree community as Citrus County has been for years, we are one of the few counties that's getting younger. We are getting that was back when was that last year that I believe the chamber did their town hall meetings, and the state chamber brought in a bunch of statistics that they put up on a PowerPoint, and I don't recall how many other counties there are, but most of Florida counties are aging, and Citrus County is one of the few that's actually getting younger. I don't have the specifics, the percentages on where they're coming from and so forth, but there are an awful lot of people moving to Florida every single day. It was up close to 1,000 people a day moving to the state. That number's decreased quite significantly. The last that I had heard was we were down around 700, 750 a day net increase in the state every single day. Now, I will tell you this, I've had this conversation with a number of folks. I have a very real concern about the governor and the legislature doing away with property taxes. Now, we'll wait and see what they come up with, but if we have a state with no income tax and no property tax, the floodgates up on the northern border of Florida are going to swing wide open, because the people in other states that have an income tax, have a property tax, why wouldn't, if they're able or getting close to retirement or retired, why wouldn't they move here? That's a major savings. And I've talked with Representative Grow about it, expressed my concerns there. He and I are great friends, and there's nothing set in stone yet. Certainly the governor, this is one of his initiatives, and so he's working towards trying to put something together. We'll see ultimately what they come up with.
There was a question from Marie. That was, the permitting and bidding process has been dragged out for such a long time. I think it's for the animal shelter. Is it likely that it will be delayed again after the bid is presented to the board in January?
It is, the delay part of it was in large part because I'll tell you, I don't like that we went to a bigger shelter. My personal belief, I've said it publicly, the idea all along is we've got an aging shelter that needs to be replaced. And I felt like that we should go into this with, let's build a new shelter with our current capacity that's expandable. And as we've got money, we can add those expansion buildings to it. Not opposed to expanding it, but let's get a new shelter on the ground. And I feel like we could have done that a year ago, 2 years ago, maybe. And instead, the board voted. I have to say that I missed that meeting. I was out of town and wasn't there when the board voted to build. They picked the larger model, and that model came back with a huge price tag. And so that's been the struggle. Ultimately, we will get one built, but it's the permitting hasn't been the issue. It has been the price tag, value engineering where we can, trying to cut where we can to get that price down to some degree of a palatable level.
Okay, we have a question from Maxine. Does the county have a position on this sand mine? The property is too close to Crystal River, Kings Bay, Springs, and the river. If they breach the aquifer, it could cause an environmental disaster. Our economy and health depends on protecting this.
I agree. I agree. I brought forth a proposal just for discussion a couple meetings before DOT decided to just purchase that property, which I don't know if they've even purchased it yet. As of a couple weeks ago, they hadn't closed on it yet. They were still doing their due diligence. But the proposal that never got legs was to allow smaller property owners up to, a minimum of say 40 acres or 50 acres to be able to sell some sand off of their property. And so you spread out, they're going to get this, 8 million yards of sand for the road. They're going to get it one place or another, and they don't want to truck it. When they truck it, it costs them a lot of money. That doubles the price of the sand. And so my proposal was to allow them to take sand from smaller parcels of property along the corridor where it didn't have to be trucked far. And it was, I guess, spreading the pain, if you will, over the entire corridor and not just one 300-acre piece. There's also sand at the end of the corridor. And so while the county hasn't taken a position on it, and certainly DOT and SwiftMud are going to do what it is that they want to with it. But SwiftMud's got issues with it. And if SwiftMud has issues with it, DEP is going to be a whole lot tougher on them. So the county won't have any permits to issue on it, but DOT does have to go through SwiftMud and DEP, and they are both very well aware of the concerns about the aquifer there and the arsenic that was found in wells in northwest Citrus County, where DEP put in a whole water system.
There's a question here from Linda about, are you going to be participating on Saturday with the No Kings rally?
Let me see here. All right, can you say that again? Sorry.
Okay, Linda asks, will you be protesting on Saturday at the No Kings rally along with 2,500 cities in the US?
No, no. Renee and I have agreed to watch our niece, and so we're actually taking her to the Mertailor, and she's getting a mermaid makeover. So we've got her for 4 days. So no, I won't be participating in any of the rallies. Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, none of them. I'm going to be spending my time with Abby.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Well, I'd like to say I've been to the board meetings. I try to go when I can. If not, I watch it at home, and they're just so interesting to watch. The kinds of people that are in the county are so, let's say, diverse. And I've seen other boards and the way they handle when people don't agree. And I really want to commend the BOCC, because even when you don't agree with each other, or you don't agree with somebody saying, you have respect for the people and what they're saying.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, and I would agree with that. That position with this board. This board, I have told so many people, individuals and groups, that the county has a board of county commissioners of 5 people that are really, really working hard for the best interests in our community, for the best interests of our community. And while I'm the only male sitting up there, I have a tremendous amount of respect for my colleagues. And it doesn't mean that we vote together on everything. We certainly don't do that, nor should we. But we have great discussion, and you listen to the people that come up to the podium and hear what they have to say. At times, that if they're willing to stick around and give us the right information, we can. The chair typically will get them paired up with somebody on staff who can help them to resolve the issue they're dealing with. Sometimes we just can't. I mean, sometimes it's something that the county just can't get involved with, and private roads, dirt roads, that they want us to go in there and put lime rock on it, or make it a better road. You can't do that. A private road would be very similar to your driveway or my driveway, and asking the county to come in and build us a new driveway. And that wouldn't be right, to take taxpayer dollars to go in and do that.
We have Maxine is asking, Senate Bill 180, you might want to explain about that, passed last legislative session. Has it changed the way you do things? Are you part of the lawsuit versus SB 180?
Okay, Senate Bill 180, what that was targeting, what I'm told from Representative Grow and what we've heard, the message coming out of Tallahassee. In fact, I think the governor even addressed it as well, that the expectation of Senate Bill 180 was to stop communities that had been hit by a storm, to stop them from making it more difficult for people to rebuild their homes. And that was the the basics of it. The very foundation of that bill is where that was coming from. The problem is, as it went through the legislature, there were more things that were added in there, and ultimately, towards the very end of it, they put in there that counties could not make it more burdensome on people to build their homes, not just rebuild their homes, but people to build homes, to develop things like that. In an area that had been hit by a hurricane or within 100 miles of it. And so now, each time that a hurricane strikes Florida, communities up and down the coast that are within 100 miles of that can't make any changes to their permitting requirements, the height requirements, the resiliency requirements, any of that kind of stuff. And what I'm being told is that was not the intent, that cast too broad of a net. And again, Representative Grow and I if you've not had him on to speak to you yet, you really should invite him. Very intelligent, very, very well spoken. And he has been
Tell him we'd
just
love to have him.
okay.
Tell
I
him
will
we'd
do
love to
that.
have him. We'll contact
I
him.
will.
Put a good
I
word
will.
in for us.
Yes, I will. I will see him tomorrow. I will make sure to tell him. But he tells me that he believes the legislature is going to address Senate Bill 180 in this next session and clean it up so that communities can continue to plan for the future, can continue to work on our comp plans, our LDC, but also, when somebody's house is destroyed, we've got to find a fast track way for them to get their houses built back again. Otherwise, you end up just contributing to people that are homeless or people that are overpaying for rent or whatever it might be. And so I have confidence that even though last year was his first year in the legislature, I do believe that he is very plugged in up there. And if he tells me they're going to address it, I think it's going to get addressed. And no, I opposed joining any kind of lawsuit against the legislature. For better or worse, the governor and the legislature have a tendency to strike back when counties do that kind of stuff. And I want to get as much money out of that legislature and bring it back here as we can. It doesn't mean that you've got to be meek in your conversations with them, but having good conversation without getting lawyers involved in litigation, I think is a better, more productive route to go.
We have a question from Maxine about, again, environment. We have so many RV parks that are not on sewer systems. Can we consider some kind of ordinance like the city of Crystal River has, where they set requirements, standards for RV parks? I'd love to see them have to locate on a sewer line.
Yeah, I'm not sure that there are any new RV parks that have been approved on on their what do they call them, package plants. Now the one exception to that is the approval for the RV park out in Ozello. But outside of that, I believe any new commercial stuff, they have to be on sewer. Now, I'll tell you something interesting that a lot of folks, when we talk about the RV parks, don't realize is the two big RV parks on Turkey Oak. They are both within the city of Crystal River. Those aren't in the county. The one big RV park that John Eden is building out on 44 East, that will be on sewer. So I don't know what other ones will be on package plants, but DEP is working hard to try and get rid of those package plants.
Okay, does anybody else have a question? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Let me see. There's some questions here in the chat. I don't know if you want me to go through those.
That's what Jean did. Jean gave you all the
Yeah, I
ones that were there.
believe she already read through those for you.
Yep.
Okay.
In other words, those weren't my questions.
Okay. Got it.
Well, we want to thank you very much for speaking tonight. The more I go to the BOCC meetings, the more I learn about the community. It's pretty cool. We have a great place to live in. And I agree with you that the commissioners really are dedicated to making it a better place and not making everything having Cadillac plans for it. So thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Please put a word in with JJ Grow. Maybe we'll have him next. We'll let you know when that is. Okay.
I'll promise you. You got to be nice to him, though. He's a good friend of mine.
Were we nice to you tonight?
Yeah.
We're always nice.
Yeah, very good. He's a good one for us. He's representing us well up there.
Okay. Thank you, everybody, for attending. Thank you,
You
Jeff.
bet. Thank you all. It was my pleasure. Anytime.
Okay, good night, everybody.
Good night.